Dune is an epic sci-fi tale that really has it all. The themes about how religion can be used to manipulate society, the burden of being the chosen one from a manufactured prophecy you don't even agree with. There's sandworms, there's giant space sandworms that poop rocket fuel. And drugs too, I guess. The drugs are rocket fuel in this universe, or I guess rather, the rocket fuel is drugs. What I'm saying is there's drugs, there's crazy space nuns, there's a lot of interesting trippy things. On paper, I should love this book. I probably would love it if it weren't terrible. I promise you this isn't just about rabble-rousing. I'm not trying to be a part of the rage bait economy, I promise you. I actually wanted to like Dune so much. Dune was introduced to me by my late father, like everything else sci-fi related. He was the one that like, hey son, check this out, let's watch this together. And Dune was introduced by my dad saying that it was kind of like Star Wars, but crazier. And back then, of course, I was still into all things Star Wars. If there's more Star Wars out there, I want to check it out. Oh man, remember that? Being excited for Star Wars stuff. I was excited for The Force Awakens, dude. So we watched the 1984 David Lynch adaptation. In a lot of ways, it is like Star Wars. It would make sense since Star Wars took so much inspiration from Dune. It was definitely trippier, a little cheaper looking, and if I'm honest, kind of boring at times. But I still loved everything it was trying to do. When the Denis Villeneuve movies came out, I think I nailed that. You cannot tell me that wasn't perfect. I've heard of the interviews. I think I did it perfectly. The Denis Villeneuve movies were amazing. I loved every aspect of them. I think I mentioned this on social media. It felt like the Lord of the Rings moment for sci-fi nerds. I'd never seen the genre being treated with that kind of attention to detail and quality, really. It's a phenomenal movie. It's the kind of movie that I know it's gonna be a tradition to rewatch at least once a year. Love it, right? So I became excited about giving this book another try. It's my third or maybe fourth time trying to read this, and I gotta be honest, this is not a great book, okay? I promise you, I'm not just saying that to be a dick. It's not a good book. Period. Now, as I was reading it at first, it's such simple prose that I was like, okay, I think I get it. It's trying to be accessible, right? And this is good. I'm all for accessible sci-fi. I don't want every book to be presumptuous in taking itself too seriously and being hard to read through, although this ended up being hard to read through for reasons that I don't think Frank Herbert intended. It's a pretty simple book, and by simple, I mean that in the worst possible way. So the first couple of chapters are downright unbearable because all of the exposition in this novel is given by having two characters who already know, what are you doing, cat? The exposition in these early chapters is done exclusively by characters who already know the world they inhabit, taking turns explaining things they already know to the other character. Now, of course, this is done for our benefit. This is so that we understand that world. I just wish it was done in a better way, because having characters exposit things endlessly in terrible prose. Again, by the way, nobody in this book sounds natural in any way. And I get that this takes place, what, some 20,000 years in the future, but this is uniquely bad. They all sound very flat. There's something really strange, like characters don't seem to display a lot of emotion, but they're constantly telling other characters directly what they're feeling in a given moment, which is just, again, it comes across like a teenager wrote that. I'm sorry, like I know this is blasphemy, but I honestly wish this book was better. Let me give you an example. There's a part in this here book where Lady Jessica, which, sidetrack here, 20,000 years into the future, right? That people are still calling their kids Jessica and Paul is, I will say, a little hard to deal with. It's almost like it was being done for comedic effect. You know how in Solar Opposites, two of the characters have like alien sounding names? Corvo and Yemulak, those sound like alien names. But then the other characters are named Jesse and Terry. So I cannot help but think of that when I'm reading about all these characters with like strange space sounding, foreign sounding names, and then there's a random Jessica and a random Paul right in the middle of it. Very distracting. But anyway, as I was saying, Lady Jessica is having a conversation with her superior in the Bene Gesserit order, which the Bene Gesserit are, it's one of the most interesting things about this world. If I'm reading this book at all, it's because I'm very intrigued by the Bene Gesserit and how they exist in this world. The ideas are actually phenomenal. It's just the writing is terrible. So there's a scene early in the book, like all the other scenes that we see, it's Lady Jessica and her superior in the Bene Gesserit order, and they're basically going, as you know, and then just explaining things to one another that they both explicitly already know. And it's really basic stuff too, like, as you know, our society is divided in the blah, blah, blah. It reads like if in a movie, a president and a vice president are having a conversation, and then one says to the other, as you know, government is formed by 3 branches. It makes no sense that they would be having this conversation. The book has a narrator. So these things can be exposited either through more subtle dialogue or the narrator. The fact that Herbert doesn't use the narrator very often is strange. The book reads like it was written by somebody who only has contact with storytelling through movies. Movies, unlike books, don't usually have narrators. So everything has to be shown or told directly. Usually, a bad movie will tell you things it should be showing you instead. That's the origin of the expression show, don't tell. And that is a fundamental narrative rule that Frank Herbert just didn't care for. He is always telling you things instead of showing you things. It's quite frustrating. Also, I don't ever get a clear image of what anybody looks like or is doing or what the environments look like, because you get like several pages of dialogue with no descriptions of how people are moving in that environment or what they're doing or what the place even looks like. It's, again, this makes it all the more impressive that Denis Villeneuve was able to create such an amazing world, like visually, drawing from this book. I don't want to sound like a dick. Like I said, I'm trying. I'm honestly trying. It's just that it's a little bit shocking that this book is like at the very top of every single top 50 sci-fi novels of all time. Every single one of them has this book in the top, or at least like second or third spots. Usually the top spot, right? Why do I get the sense that people are just, they think that this book cannot be criticized? I'm sure that that's got to be another reason. But that's how I feel. It's a bad book. It's honestly a bad book. I did a search. I swear to God, I did a search. Since I'm reading this on an e-reader, I thought, you know what? Is this really as frequent as I feel? Or am I like, let's search. I did a search, okay, for we both know. And 2 pages of results came up. That's how many times in this book a character tells another something they both already know. It's frustrating. I'm gonna keep giving it a try. I feel like not having this in my background as a sci-fi reader, like I feel like I do need to get through this. But damn, it was almost a little confusing that people consider this the finest in the genre. I don't know, man. If you're a big Dune nerd, if you love this series, let me know in the comments. What am I missing here? Like, does it get any better? Because like I can never get past like maybe 30% of this book. It's just that hard to get into. Like way too much stuff happens off screen, right? Like off page, I guess I should say. Like just characters telling you what happened instead of an interesting description of what actually happened. Characters tell you straight up how they're feeling while simultaneously just seeming so flat. It's I don't know, man. I'm having a hard time with this book. Convince me to keep reading. Let's see. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's all the time I have for today. I'm Izzy and I'm done.